Okay, welcome back IT9. Today we are working on our endgame sequence. This one will be fairly straightforward to do because a lot of this code I think is probably maybe a little too complicated for grade 9, so I'm going to give you the code in something that's called a code module. What I would like you to do is to click on your project menu item up top and click on Add Existing Item. Now you're going to have gone and grabbed a copy of this VB file. It's on my public drive. You just copy it and paste it into your project folder right next to all your other Form 1 Designer and Form 1 Visual Basic and your SUL files and all that kind of stuff. So you copy and paste it into there. And this is called a module. It's a code module. It's just a place to organize your code and put some separate code. So nonetheless, make sure you put it in there. And then what we're doing right now is we're going to add this code to our project. So you click on the endgame file and click on Add, and then over on the right hand side a new file will appear under your project view. You look at your project tree over here. There's your Form 1, which is where your form is designed. Your game itself, the visual part of your game, is there, plus the code part of your game, and you've now added this endgame code as well. Now what we're going to do with this endgame code is we're going to use it to track whether your player has actually solved the puzzle or not. I'm going to switch over to the code for a second here and we'll have a quick peek at what this does. For starters, inside our module, it's called an endgame module, the first thing we're going to want to do is to declare 3 variables. The first variable is called picture sequence, and you notice it's got this number here with these brackets. This is something called an array, and all it really is a special variable that holds like 9 different values. Anyways, this one's an array that stores 9 values. And below that we've got this other variable called sequence, which we're going to use to determine the order of our picture boxes. And then down below that we've got this variable called scrambled. Okay, and I will cover what each of these do for us individually. You notice that on other variable declarations, remember we started with the keyword dim. On these ones I'd like you to start these two guys here with the keyword private, and then our scrambled variable down below that with the keyword, starting with the keyword public. And it just really enables you to access these variables from different locations. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to create another subroutine. And this subroutine really just loads this array that we created up here with its initial values. So what this is, all this is saying is that, remember we had that tile 1 and had a tag value of 1? Well, this is really the same thing. This is how our computer is going to track which picture box is in which, or which picture is in which picture box. So we're going to tell it, in picture box 1, that's the number 1 there, put a 1. In picture box 2, put a 2, and so on all the way down. And these are just our initial values when the program first launches. And that's when we're going to call the start position routine. And it's going to load a 1 in picture box 1 and so on all the way down to the end. These are going to change every time we call up our swap file routine. And we'll show you how that works in a minute here. So I'm going to shrink that one up. We don't need to do anything else with this for now. Alright, now this part's a little bit complicated, and if you don't understand it, don't worry about it. And to be quite honest with you, this part of the video you can pause and skip through if it's not really something that you're particularly interested in. This particular function is the reason why I'm telling you to just add the code instead of type it all out. Nonetheless, what I've done is I've created a variable called sequence. That's the one we declared up there. And I'm giving it a no value, a null value that has nothing in it. This scrambled variable here is what it does is when scrambled has a value of true, it means the player is actually playing the game. So what happens is scrambled is initially set to false, and as soon as they swap one tile, scrambled becomes true. When scrambled becomes true, every time they swap a tile, we rebuild this sequence by adding those numbers above to this sequence variable. So for example, it starts off as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, the numbers that we have here, and every time they click a tile, what's going to happen is that number is going to change in the sequence. It's going to change from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 8. And we're going to use those values to track whether the puzzle has been solved. So once they've swapped one single tile, the sequence will come out of order, and then it'll go back into every time they swap a tile, these values in the sequence variable will change places. And if the sequence variables ever gets back to its original position, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, it means that the player has successfully solved our puzzle. So whenever they're out of order, in non 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 order, it means the puzzle's not solved. But when it gets back to that order, it means the puzzle is solved. And once we find that, then we know that the puzzle's been solved. Now, all this gobbledygook, again, you don't really need to worry about it. All you need to know, let me minimize this, is that this subroutine here, which is called a function, if this whole subroutine has a value of true, it means that the game is over. It means your player has solved the puzzle. If it has a value of false, it means the player hasn't solved the puzzle. He can keep playing. That's really all that this thing is doing. The next subroutine we're going to create is one called swap places. Now this is almost identical to the image swapping one that we created before. And what we're doing with this guy is we're going to send it two index values, and we're simply going to swap their positions. So, for example, let's say this is our sequence value. You know, we've got it close to this or whatever. We're running through our game, and let's say we swapped picture 3 and 4. What this code here is doing, all it's doing is swapping the position of these two in this string. So this would wind up, if we swap tile 3 and 4, this would wind up saying 1, 2, 4, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So every time we swap one of our images, these numbers here are trading places. So for example, if I swap 9 and 8, over here at the end, 9 and 8 are going to trade positions. This becomes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 8, and so on. And every time we swap one, two of these values trade places. And when they trade places, we check to see if the thing is back to its original form. If it's back to its original form, it means your player has won. If it's not, it means your player hasn't won yet. What you need to know is how to make use of this. Let's go back to our phone event. Every time the user clicks one of our tiles, this code gets run. And we're going to set our scrambled variable to true. So every time they click one of those, scrambled becomes true, which means I'm then rebuilding that string. At the very end of this, we're just going to add this little structure right here. So what this means is, remember, this is the block of code that gets run every time we swap a set of tiles. And at the end of this, we're simply going to go, hey, check the endgame's positions. If this subroutine ever has a value of true, it means that we've won the game. So just pop up with a message box saying, hey, you solved the puzzle, congratulations, whatever the case may be. If endgame.checkPositions ever has a value of false, we skip right over this and we run on to our next turn. Inside our form load event, we have to call that starting positions subroutine. And all I do is say endgame.startPositions, and this will run those blocks of code, that block of code up here, which is the block of code right there, and set all of our initial values. So when we run our game, here's our game here, and it's not pulling up congratulations subroutine or message right now because that scrambled variable, it has a value of false. So now once I click on it, my scrambled variable has a value of true, and now I can start solving my puzzle. I'm not going to scramble the thing because I don't really want to do that just yet. I just want to get it back to its original position. Alright, once I get this down here, if everything's worked properly, we should get that endgame message, whatever that congratulations message is. And when I click it back into its original position, remember, this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That sequence variable will have all of those values back in their original positions, and up pops our message saying, woohoo, you won the game. And that's pretty much it.